I was originally going to make a list of my top 25 albums of the year, but the list wasn't very in-depth as much as I wanted it to be, so I gave up and decided I would focus on one album. Also under the guise of a single comment that, while it did piss me off, it was absolutely right. So here's my top 25 list. Pause the video if you want, I don't know, I don't care. But this video, however, is about Deception Falls, the album by Exociety and my album of the year for 2022. I was gonna make a list of my top 25 because I posted a video about the worst albums of the year, but if we're being 100% honest, that video was kind of bad. And like I said before, shout out to the guy who gave me that comment giving valid criticism, Kung Fu Henny. And it wasn't just him either. I've gotten criticism from some of my closest friends telling me that instead of going for a broad strike at just giving surface level input for a lot of albums, I should just go all in on a few. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Exociety Music was a hip-hop collective started in 2014 by bedroom rapper Rav, later bringing in friends Kill Bill the Rapper and Scuare. In 2018 they rebranded to Exociety and brought in an artist doing his own thing in a very similar lane. That artist is Aerospace. See, whenever you'd be in any online forums with Bill and Rav mentioned, someone not too far behind would be throwing Aero's name into those same conversations. Aerospace was brought in the collective in 2018, and for a while it seemed as if he wasn't even there. They wouldn't really promo any of his stuff, and yeah, some of it is certainly out there, but some of it is definitely tolerable for people who like Bill and Rav and that whole kind of lo-fi sound anyway.
Hey yo, sorry if I call a lot. Yeah, I hope you taking this to the heart because it's all the knots.
It was almost unexplainable why there should be a discrepancy between the members anyway. This discrepancy, along with other issues, would end up leading Aero to leave the group and focus solely on himself. And he didn't really leave the group on good terms either. It's really a shame. But before he left the group, they got together in 2021 to create an album in 2 weeks in Skycomish, Washington, near Deception Falls. The album title was named after the place they were at. The promo for this was first started by them posting pictures on Instagram, then releasing the single EXP Share late in November.
I'd be better off dead, without some time to roam the earth and torture revers instead. I stay hot, my head's volcanic ash of the blood. Put my Charizard in the pack and my dad in the trunk.
About a week or so before Bill released his album Snow Globe Theory. And EXP Share, honestly, fucking banging, dude. This song is crazy good, I still play it. The beat sounds reminiscent of both a Griselda sound, but also something that fits the group perfectly. I like those little chimes or sounds in the background that go in and go out. Little ooh, I can't even do it, but like, we need to have a serious convo about Raw Styles. Like, this beat is insane. I don't know what he was doing. I need this instrumental, dog. I think Aerospace and Rav kind of had the best verses by a landslide here. Like, Bill and Scuare were good, but my ranking goes Aero, Rav, Scuare, Bill. Aero comes in with his gritty delivery that fits the beat perfectly, and he sounds absolutely menacing over this beat. Then Bill does his thing or whatever, Scuare gives a good but not amazing verse, and then Rav drops one of his best verses in a while about being true to himself and his art, and how he's getting independence from how people view his art. Unfortunately, since Aero has left, this verse from Rav just hits all the more true, but that's why I'm glad we still have this song at the very least. Then in late January, they dropped The Lodge as a single for the album, which I personally was a little iffy on, but it had good performances from every member in the group, most notably once again Aerospace and Scuare, and it also had a good music video as well. Then on March 10th, they dropped the single Victory Lap, which was used in the trailer for the album, and honestly I was hype as fuck when that dropped. It was the song I thought I'd be looking most forward to, which wasn't the case when the actual album dropped, but it was still good. The beat is crazy and everyone did fine, generally. But then on March 11th, the album comes out and oh my god, it is great. Stylistically, it is all over the place, while being consistent, if that makes sense. There's hype tracks, there's somber reflective tracks, and overall there's no bad moments. I think Square's Respite kills a bit of the momentum from the first into the second half, but I think it still works. The track The Lodge, like I said earlier, has no verses in particular that are far better than the other. I think Aero and Scuare have the best verses in this song, but the song comes in with this droning, like a turn signal noise, just repeating as 808s and snares and other drums start to kick in. The only thing I'd say about this though is if there's any track on here that deserves a beat switch, I think it's 100% The Lodge. Like by minute 3, you get tired of the beat. The next track is Live from the Graveyard. And the first time I heard this, I was pretty lukewarm on it. I was like, everyone's just kind of fine. But nah, now I love the airiness of the beat. I think everyone's able to really flow on it, and they pretty much give good verses. My favorite here is Aero. I think Aerospace demolishes what he can at this beat. I especially like his flow as he comes in and it seems to go from like one part of the line to the next part of the line, and I think it really works. I also like how some of his lines tend to drag a bit. I think his flow plays off that really well. Square is a close second. He's got some good lines like "Life's gotten better when will disaster set in." So hard hitting, man. And it's true as fuck, really. I started this semester super confident, but then had self-image issues strike me out of nowhere, and then I started talking to someone who made me question everything about myself. Not saying it's their fault, but I'm saying I understand the seed at the back of my mind that Square is referring to here. Good Grief is quite honestly out of place, but I do love it. The beat's really weird, but it works. Aerospace murders this verse, at least in terms of flow, he rides it perfectly. I think Square's hook or chorus or whatever here is good, and his flow's fine, but the verse in my opinion is kind of not great. I don't think we needed a Square verse in this track. Rav's verse by comparison is short, but he gets out exactly what he needs to about how people don't take him seriously for making music as his job, while he's still able to make money and live off of it. The next track here, Step Slide Separate, was my most listened to track this year on Spotify Wrapped, and it's such a tragically beautiful track. I absolutely adore this minimal beat from Autumn Keys. The layers between the piano and drums that come in about halfway into each verse is just, oh my god. I think the verses here are generally consistently very good. Bill has my least favorite, but that's less because it's Bill and more because everyone in the group is just a great writer in my opinion when they really put their hand to it. I think Rav is a great choice to start out the track. I like his little intro, and I think it meshes well with his verse.
Maybe sharing this is rude of me, self-centered tomfoolery. But what about
the lines about feeling unwell all the time, how he feels like he has to bottle up feelings to not be deemed self-centered, and the line about "tell me it'll be okay," the constant needing of reassurance that what he does isn't a fluke, and then going back to wanting to hide from everyone because they're a problem and the enemy. Aerospace said something similar in his song Sailor Moon, where he says, everyone now is an enemy, everything now is an enemy. Because that's really how it feels sometimes. That's really how it feels, man. I think Square gives one of his best verses here, talking about how he wonders if putting effort into music is really what he wants with life. How he should just be happy that he can pursue his dream job, but doesn't feel like he can, and he feels like he's unable to trust himself while simultaneously looking for peace just to get through the day. That verse fucked me up when I heard it, before the Arrow verse would fuck me up even further. The next verse is Bill talking about the same sort of things Rav and Square do, but he feels like because of who he isn't getting attention or isn't getting excused for certain things in his life, and how being the best version of himself is tiring. Aerospace is last in this track and in my opinion has the absolute best verse. This might be my favorite verse on the entire album. He goes for more of a spoken word flow here that's very similar to his flow on Live from the Graveyard, but god, these are some of his most hard-hitting lines since All Dreams End.
I'm sure she fucked the guy when she was lost in Vegas, and I'm sure I fucked the bitch while I was sober and shameless. Then again, I'm almost positive that this talking is aimless, when all the wildest fucking smile is of the lost entertaining. I ain't really had words when I started this letter. Adjacent to the static I felt when I met her. Is a cup half full or too empty for effort? Hope to do better, search for the error.
The first 16 bars of this verse hit me so hard, because it's exactly how I felt when I got close to someone and found someone I might have been interested in. The hyperfixation, when he says, "so sorry cause now you're the star of my ocean," the feeling that I'm not good enough, and the second guessing myself moments after saying I'd be more confident to push forward and tell people how I felt, not understanding why I can't be more confident, and not understanding what I'm doing wrong. The lack of being able to communicate in person, so bad at talking I'm writing you, like, man. The feeling out of place, the feeling of the weight of the world being on your shoulders because you don't truly know how to feel about this person, but coming to the realization that while you do like them, it's not possible to save what you have, which I think he references when he says, "As I leap into traffic, this war's run cold." This song is so fucking good, dude. The next song is Astasis. The song is significantly less hard-hitting, and like Good Grief, is sort of like a song that sounds like it was made for fun and the vibes. But Rav has some dark lines here where he says, "Yeah, I'm a bummer still, Bummerville, population me." And then, "I approach life like I'm in imminent danger, then say too much, I'm an intimate stranger. Identity crisis, body dysmorphia." Bruh, Rav is literally me. I'm telling you. That's crazy. I can definitely relate to those lines because I was hit with an identity crisis midway through this semester pretty hard. But this song is great. I like the beat from Raw Styles. I think it's a good high energy beat, fits everyone perfectly. I do wish there was an Arrow verse here. I think Arrow would have sounded great on this. My main problem with the song is the chorus. It takes a bit long to get going, and get through, despite not being very wordy. Square's verse is just silly fun about eating snacks, watching wildlife at the cabin. The lines about shit-talking trees and taunting the bear is pretty funny. Square's Respite is a quick little interlude that has Square singing over one of Rav's beats from his 2021 project, School of Error, and I think it kind of breaks the momentum going from the first to the second part of the album, but it's not a huge deal breaker. After this we have Blunts and Clementines, which is another great beat from Raw Styles with some nice strings here. It has like a southern sound to it. And Bill comes in rapping with like a southern flow, like a Bun B flow almost. And he even references Still Tippin' by Mike Jones, which is one of the best southern rap songs ever. Square's verse is good, but it's just kind of whatever to me. He doesn't say much that ultimately resonates with me. And it's kind of like Astasis, where the song seems like a high energy, fun break from the terrible sadness. Viridian is another great beat produced by Raw Styles. Notice a pattern here, okay? The best beats in this thing have Raw Styles all over it. And this sample's fucking incredible. I know he'll never sample snitch on himself, but yeah, like, I said it before, but we really gotta talk about how good Raw Styles production on this album is. Man, even back in the day it was crazy, and yeah, I did my research, Raw Styles, if you end up watching this. Raw Styles, quit fucking around, please, and you need to drop a beat tape with all these EXO beats, man. We need them. I wanted to put the beat from EXP Share in this video as background music, but I couldn't. Anyway, Bill's verse is about being absorbed in the beauty of nature around him while at the cabin. The chorus from Square is fantastic. I love how he describes the changing of color and the juxtaposition of that with the mental health lines. Perfection. Square's verse here is good. I think there are a few great lines, especially starting out, but I think Rav once again takes the best verse in this thing. I can relate to and understand damn near every line, and while that is a problem in real life, that just adds to the musical experience, boy. Seriously though, the lines about wanting to be at peace instead of constant overworrying, the out-of-hand ego at times, the impatience and expectation of being unable to be happy. Rav, what the fuck happened, man? Why do I feel like you are just like me for real? If y'all haven't listened to Rav's 2020 album, I'm Onto Me, what are you doing? That shit is perfect. I haven't found anything that describes how I feel, like day to day, in musical form besides that. So many of the lyrics, it's like, fuck, he's talking to me, man. Shouts out to Insert Sponsor Here is another song where it's kind of just meant for fun. They talk about getting high, wanting to find drinks to promote. The beat, once again, the GOAT Raw Styles, bruh. Great beat, man. I love this song, the vibe is perfect. Bill's verse is downright hilarious at points, talking about Sobe. I've never had Sobe, I don't know, I guess I'm too young. I'm a 2000s kid though, so I don't know, man. Tread was my least favorite track on the first listen, but now that I've had over 6 months to sit with this album, I think Tread might be in my top 5. I think the sort of droning beat is perfect for these downright dark lyrics. This is some shit you'd play on the way to get revenge for something. Like, this is some shit John Wick would play while training. The religious imagery contrasting with the death in Arrow's verse is perfect over this beat. I don't relate to any lines he says here besides struggle making him stronger and feeling more tense as people pressure you to fit in their box of expectations. He also shouts out Death Cab for Cutie in case you're a fan. I'm not, but you know. Square's chorus is great, the singing is good, I could see myself crying to that if I was breaking down. His verse is good, but the best two parts are the last lines where he says, I get so mad at myself, it's still so hard to explain. It's stealing part of my heart, there's something wrong with my brain. Rav's verse is good here, he likens himself to a mummy walking around the streets without a purpose, and there's more of that dark imagery, and I think it works really well. Victory Lap is the penultimate track, the final single, and the song teased in the album trailer. I adore the beat here. Shout out to Sato, this shit is crazy. The boom bap, almost trap style is great, everyone rides the beat well. Rav is probably best to be in the chorus here instead of a verse, because I know he can definitely ride a trap beat, because he did on that Dre Wave song, which you should check out.
Loud, smoking that profound, posted in SoCal, scoping the locale, got your girl sending snaps, shaking booty even lower than my profile.
But I think he'd be out of place here. Best verse on this, probably Bill, 100%. Bill needs more beats like this. It sounds so fucking good. There's like a filter here on his voice that makes it sound like ultra clear. It's so good. Arrow's verse is okay, not the best, and Square's verse is kinda bad. They're not, I don't know, they're not great verses, and they don't really do much except ride the beat, but I think they are needed on the track. The final track, and my second favorite track on the entire album, is 1 year from now. We gotta start with this beautiful ass layered beat. Chef's kiss on this shit, man. Sato. What the fuck? I love how the beat comes in with the keys, you can really feel like you're in a forest. And then it all builds on itself perfectly, and then Bill comes in. My least favorite verse here is Rav. He only drops a few lines that are semi-impactful, and just kind of uses his voice as an instrument, added to the beat, which is cool, but it gets a bit much towards the end of his verse. Bill's verse is optimistic, but uncertain about what the future holds for him and how he's honing in on his creativity while working on the project. Aero's verse here starts with a triplet flow, sort of, that comes in so energetic, and it's just, oh, it's so good. I don't really get what he's saying or the lyrics, besides the part about his mother telling him to leave the house, referring to how he makes music for himself and his late mother. But the verses, the flow over the beat is just perfection. Square's verse about self-care and self-improvement I relate to a lot. The path to self-love with self-care and self-improvement in general is difficult, and it takes a lot to get through it, and it's an optimistic take on an album where more hard-hitting verses were shrouded in pessimism. I think it's a great verse to end the album on. Overall, I think this is one of the best projects to come from the Exociety collective, probably on par with Ramona, Skin, New Moon, I'm On To Me. I would honestly rate this album a strong 9.5 plus out of 10. Is it biased? Absolutely. I don't care. I'm turning up to Blunts and Clementines, bitch. If you like weird alternative hip-hop that's not as alternative but is considered out there to mainstream listeners, and you like lo-fi-esque boom-bappy or instrumentals and introspective lyrics about mental health, then I think you should absolutely check out this album. You can stream it for free on YouTube or download it for free off Bandcamp, and hey, if you like it, they even dropped a documentary for it on their channel, which I've been using clips from this entire video.
That's fucking nuts, bro. That shit is nuts. That shit is nuts. It's so exciting.
That's it. That's all I've got. Thank you for watching. I'm not going to be posting around Christmas, as I'm sure you can figure out. I might schedule something to post, but I'm going to be busy that entire week and a half, so don't expect too much out of me. That's all I got. Thank you for watching. Peace out.